Another tentative step closer this week as Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham announced restaurants can open patios with certain limits. But COVID watchers have their gaze trained on southern New Mexico, where Human Services Secretary Dr. David Scrace warned of a brewing outbreak. We have a seasoned group with us to get the latest. We welcome Diane Snyder, line regular and former state senator. We welcome attorney and line regular Laura Sanchez also. And we welcome line guest Dave Mulryan, founder of Everybody Votes. And speaking of voting, we've all heard about voting with your feet. What we saw after businesses were allowed to open, Dave, is that many stayed closed and many shoppers stayed home. What did you make of the opening and how it went out there? What was your observation?
Well, I was downtown and I was talking to someone who owns a coffee shop, and they actually were essential on some level. They were allowed to be open. Being open is one thing. Being open and having customers is another thing. And right. So on some level, when you have to scale up, you have to bring back your employees, you have to start paying those employees. And I'm thinking that a lot of restaurants, it's a tenuous business at best. And I think that it's very difficult for them to scale to the point where they can provide service without continuing to lose a lot of money. And so it's, again, people are going to have to be making judgments based on what they know about their business, what it's going to cost to bring in money. And I think that, some amount of government intervention on some level provide more money for businesses if you want them to survive. And owners are going to have to make the decision. Someone said to me, I'm qualified for an SBA, Small Business Administration loan. Yet do I want that loan because it may be forgivable, but is it going to take me to the promised land? Am I going to get past the point where my restaurant can again be fully functional and making a profit? Or am I taking on debt that it's not going to ensure that I make it? There's a lot of very hard questions that you're going to have to be weighing.
Yeah. Hey, Laura, the idea, Dave brought up restaurants, and I'm glad he did. Some of the polling shows that people, they want to go out to restaurants, but they're very antsy about it. And restaurateurs have a challenge to meet an antsy public halfway. Outdoor patio dining, 50% capacity, is that enough to get it done?
I think it's a good start. I actually went out on Wednesday because I could not wait to go out and enjoy a drink, frankly.
I saw your post on Facebook. It looked yummy.
Yeah, so I ended up, I called first and I found out that Jinja was going to have their patio open. So I went there and they were well prepared. They had chairs spaced out. They were in between seatings. They were sanitizing the space, the table, the chairs. You basically wore your mask until you were seated. Mm-hmm. And then you were able to obviously not have your mask while you were eating and drinking. And it was really nice. I mean, there were some kinks to work out. I think they were still trying to scale up the number of servers and they had more food. They had a limited menu, which helped. And so I think that was definitely a very good start. I saw a lot of familiar faces and folks from the West Side that were like me, just itching to get out and be able to, spend some time socializing with loved ones or family or whoever, friends, close friends. And so we did that on Wednesday, and that was really nice. But I think that it will be a challenge once it scales up to 50% capacity or whatever, with it, like inside dining in, not in the patio. I think that's going to be a challenge because you just have space limitations, and owners, restaurant managers have to figure out how to get people in. There's also the issue of people who are on unemployment that don't seem to want to come back in some cases. So I think that's all a challenge for them.
Good point there. Senator, I'm interested in your thoughts about where the Republican Party and Steve Pearce as chair have been coming from. The House Republican caucus, relentless in their criticism of where the governor's been coming from on this. And I have to say, when you think about where these folks are literally coming from physically in other parts of the state that have not been hit that hard, you can understand where they're coming from. But, your sense of where the pushback is right now.
I think you hit on the point, Gene, is we say everybody's being treated the same, but we know that's not true. Yeah. San Juan County, McKinley County, it's based on their needs. They need more help, so they are more restrictive in their limitations. Mm-hmm. Well, Southeast New Mexico is so low on the number of cases that they've had, is they don't understand why. And that point I concede to them. I think that's absolutely true. If we're going to make a difference in Northwest, New Mexico, San Juan County, and McKinley, make them more stringent, then why would we not look at and sectionalize the state and make Southeast New Mexico more lenient in their restrictions? I think if that had occurred, you would have seen very little of the lawsuits and the continued demonstrations and the anger, to be quite truthful, the anger that you're seeing. And I think that Mr. Pierce is picking up on, because Southeast New Mexico is, in of course, Northwest is the strongest area of conservative, not just Republican, but right, conservative New Mexicans. So they don't understand why they're being penalized when, in fact, they're much safer to be in that part of the country. Yeah. I think it's a message. I don't know that the courts will hear it. Mm-hmm. I think everybody's hoping that things will open up before they have to do that. Right. But the message, I think the message is we should have been treated differently in a positive manner, just like San Juan and McKinley, the Northwest, mm-hmm, was being enclosed in more stringent regulations on them. So I think that's what the basis is for this. Right. It's just the frustration and the anger.
Gotcha. Hey, Dave, interestingly, as I hear Senator talking and just sort of getting ready for our conversation today, I'm wondering if you think the governor has had her hand forced a little bit when you think about it. When you talk about, Texas, Colorado, Arizona, Utah, we're surrounded by states that are relaxing things. Right. There's a certain point where you can hold your ground, but it starts to work the whole thing sort of backwards.
Well, it does. But I think, but you can say whatever you want to say. And yes, there are individual things that are wrong here. Yet Wired magazine showed that the safest place in the country right now is New Mexico, because we have done the things that we need to do. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the traps that we've fallen into, and this is not a surprise in 2020 America, we have politicized pretty much every aspect of the pandemic. It is a public health issue as much as it's anything. And the idea that you go left and I go right, and I'm a conservative, so I believe we should be opening versus I'm a lefty, I believe we should do whatever we need to do. That's what we've done. We have politicized it. But also the economic question is, when you need to work because you need to eat, you need to work. And so, there's got all these questions. So I do not envy this governor or any of the governors, because there's a lot of balls in the air. And yet, if you make a mistake, people die. So we are down to, let's just give it a tagline, your money or your life. And I don't know where you fall down on it.
Right. Senator, I'm curious. Actually, I'm going to go to Laura first. We got about 2 minutes. Maybe we can split this between you and Senator. Special session's on track for June 18th. What's the prudent strategy at this point when you look at that?
Well, I think they're going to have to look at everything on the table. I mean, I don't know how you address any aspect of our budget without considering everything. Mm-hmm. I think education is going to unfortunately suffer some cuts. I think we're going to see some changes from what the last budget looked like. And they're going to have to go back to the drawing board on some of the things that they increased from the previous budget. Mm-hmm. So there's just a lot of moving parts. And I know that there's already, groups and constituencies looking at their particular area. And I know a lot of very, very nervous administrators and teachers because of the potential changes coming up.
Yeah. Senator, what's your thought on that in the special?
Two things. The thing that's fascinating me the most is how they're going to do it logistically. That's a whole different conversation. Yes. But I think I was reading Senator John Arthur Smith says, well, I think with the federal money coming in and our reserve, incredible reserve, we may not have to make as many cuts. Well, maybe I've become cynical in my own age, but my very first thought was, well, yeah, we'll do that during this special. Well, and then we'll have election day. And then in January, we'll slash and burn everything, because we will see that we didn't, because that federal money is not going to keep coming in. That's right. It's one-time help right now. Mm-hmm. And it would make things easier for all the people that they gave money to in the session, this session. But I just can't see that it can hold. That's so I think I think either in the special or in the general at regular session in January, you'll see a lot of cuts.
Good point to finish.
Oil and gases.
Absolutely. Right.
Oil and gases. Yeah.
All right. No worries. That's how Zoom goes. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.